Convicted of brutally beating another man and leaving him for dead is headed to prison.
I think it's going to be very, very sad Christmas for that little boy.
Police are trying to figure out what caused a crash that killed a 22-year-old Georgetown father.
And this woman was the victim of a multi-million-dollar scam that could easily target you next. What you need to know to protect yourself coming up.
Tracking, alerting, protecting. This is WKYT News at 5:30.
Good evening. A Southern Kentucky man is headed to prison after he admitted to brutally attacking a man at a rock quarry.
Jason Gambrell admitted to assaulting Derek Cassey in July at the old quarry in Rockcastle County. Police told us that Gambrell robbed Cassey of hundreds of dollars and basically left him for dead. Phil Pendleton was in the courtroom as Gambrell learned his punishment. It's our top story at 5:30.
Jason Gambrell strolled up to the bench to hear his punishment from Judge David Tapp.
Is there any reason why judgment should not now be pronounced?
I do not believe so, Your Honor.
Gambrell pleaded guilty during a court hearing in November. Police said in July that he probably meant to kill 23-year-old Derek Cassey. Cassey told us he worked with Gambrell in Somerset. Thought he was going to buy a car when he was robbed of $700 and given severe head injuries at the hands of Gambrell at the old quarry. Gambrell was charged with attempted murder but pleaded guilty to an amended charge of first-degree assault.
So I didn't want that in any way to reflect that we think that this conduct is in any way less heinous or serious than it is.
Prosecutors say even though the charge is less, the punishment is basically the same.
I sentence you to 14 years imprisonment at such location within the state as the Department of Corrections shall designate.
Gambrell said very little during the sentencing, only wanting his pre-sentence report to include the names of his children. The front rows were filled with his family. Last month, his mother told us the arrest probably saved her son's life because he was killing himself with drug abuse. In Rockcastle County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
Prosecutors say Gambrell will have to serve 85% of the sentence before he is eligible for parole.
We're learning more about a father killed in an overnight crash in Lexington. The crash happened on Georgetown Road near the Fayette-Scott County line. 22-year-old Dustin Keith Smith was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators tell us Smith's car crossed the median on Georgetown Road and drove past oncoming traffic. The property owner says he heard the crash around 12:30 this morning, but he didn't see anything. Police apparently didn't know there was a deadly crash until 2:45 when a driver passing by called 911. Family members tell us Smith is survived by a young son.
I think it's going to be very, very sad Christmas for that little boy. I know it's going to be rough because I'm a single mother and I have a little boy, and I know the trouble that she's going to have now.
The coroner says toxicology tests will be done. They say they do not know what caused Smith to run off the road.
A church parsonage damaged during an early morning fire has firefighters now asking some questions. Investigators say that fire broke out at a home on Kentucky 198 in Lincoln County. The home was the parsonage for McKinney Christian Church. Firefighters tell us they realized right away that the fire was suspicious and they called state police to investigate.
It was suspicious in origin.
Is there the thinking here that maybe there could have been a break-in? Is that a possibility?
That's a possibility. One of the windows was open and also a door was open to the structure.
No one was living in the parsonage at the time of that fire, but we are told that the church was preparing it for someone to move into.
Big changes in the weather just in time for Christmas, and that could bring some snowflakes. Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey is tracking that chance of snow. Chris, how about it?
Yeah, you know what? This is a very, very busy and rather ugly travel period that may throw a couple of snowflakes our way as we go into Christmas Eve and Christmas morning. Between now and then, though, there's a lot of ugly in the forecast with gusty winds and the threat for heavy rain. Right now across the land, we have a lot of low clouds, those temperatures topping out enough this afternoon, low 50s, and now starting to see some of the showers increasing into parts of central and southern Kentucky. Here's Live First Alert Defender as of now. Notice how the raindrops are especially a little more prominent along and south of Interstate 64 and Lexington Metro. Little spotty action on the south side of town. That may be a sprinkle showing up around Nicholasville Road and right on top of Richmond and Berea towards sections of Mount Vernon. Some steadier showers working their way on into town from south to north. Corba, we've had a few raindrops. Heaviest band of rain, though, is just to the north of the Hal Rogers Parkway here from Manchester over to Hyden, right on top of Buckhorn, and that is lifting its way toward the north and northeast. So folks around Breathitt County will be getting in on some heavier rains. Everything continues to come at us from southwest to northeast. We're going to see all kinds of showers continue to develop later tonight into tomorrow as a big storm system begins to move into the Bluegrass State. Main threats initially heavy rain and high wind, but we are tracking the potential for some Christmas snowflakes when I come back in about 10 minutes.
A deadly officer-involved shooting is under investigation. Our county-by-county coverage at 5:30 begins in Boone County. A Cincinnati TV station reports one person was shot and killed in Independence around 10:30 this morning. Police say they were serving a warrant for a man connected to an armed robbery at a hotel in Florence last night. Police say the man, Alan Bertley Todd, confronted police with a weapon. Police say the officers involved acted in response to the lack of compliance from Todd. In Franklin County, police are searching for a man accused of shooting two people. Frankfort police say two people with gunshot wounds showed up at a hospital Saturday. The victims told police they were playing dominoes inside a business on Holmes Street when a man came in around 1:30 in the morning. Police say the man walked up to one of the victims, opened fire, and ended up injuring a second person as well. One of the victims suffered serious injuries and is still in the hospital. The other victim has been released. In Madison County, a man has pleaded guilty to causing a deadly chain reaction crash. Ryan Mangan admitted he drank several beers before crashing on I-75 in February. The crash led to the deaths of Meredith Busher of Richmond and Jeffrey Campbell of Corbin. Mangan will be sentenced on wanton endangerment charges in February.
It began with a phone call, an urgent voice on the other end of the line, and the threat of a lawsuit. As Sam Dick reports, it all added up to a multi-million-dollar scam that targeted vulnerable victims who had no idea they were being taken for a ride.
It's scary when somebody call you and tell you that they have to take all your property.
That's what happened to Denora after she bought products like these being sold on television. Con artists stole the list of customers and then called them, claiming the consumers had failed to pay for their purchases and were now facing lawsuits and thousands of dollars in fines.
They were given the option at the end, which sounded like a great option. They said, okay, instead of having to hire an attorney, have to travel to Washington to go to court, have to go to 7 days of community service and possibly be arrested, you can make one settlement payment.
For $200 or $300, the whole problem could go away.
All these calls were made to Spanish-speaking Hispanic consumers. Many of the people haven't been in the country very long. They really didn't know their rights.
How I feel? Really mad. I feel really mad. I feel angry because it's not fair. You work really hard because you have everything that you have.
Denora was not alone. There were more than 1,000 victims and $2 million in losses.
If you want money, you have to work really hard by yourself, by your own job.
Postal inspectors say there is one major warning sign for a scam like this one, the caller's sense of urgency.
They scare them and they make them actually make the payment right away.
If somebody called me telling me that I have to pay some money, I just call the police and I call customer affair to see if it's true. I need to be sure now. I need to be sure before I pay anything.
That was our Sam Dick reporting. Postal inspectors say the two suspects in this case were charged with mail fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy, and attempted extortion. They are now awaiting sentencing.